The Wizarding world is brilliantly crafted, and it is an ideal platform for new and interesting stories to be told. So why are they remaking Harry Potter? All you're doing is reinforcing the belief that this world can't go beyond Harry Potter, when there is so much potential for original creations and new world building. I realise they attempted to expand the universe with the Fantastic Beasts movies, but those movies were clearly flawed from the ground up. Just look at the title. The Fantastic Beasts portion gets smaller and smaller with every movie. Obviously they wanted a name that was recognisable and could connect all the movies, but they clearly didn't consider how impractical it would become. Not to mention the fact that the main character is more and more overshadowed by people like Dumbledore and Grindelwald as the series progressed. Imagine they had made Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them a standalone movie. From there, they could have made sequels that centred around each of the books that Harry gets in his first year at Hogwarts. Picture a movie exploring a history of magic that focused on the life of Bathilda Bagshot. Or a movie about a beginner's guide to transfiguration. And the series could have ended with The Dark Forces, a guide to self-protection, which could have been a team-up movie like The Avengers, where the 8 authors need to work together, using their individual abilities to defeat evil. Newt Scamander could have used his Fantastic Beasts, and the person who wrote A Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration could use their knowledge of transfiguration. And when they worked together, she could change Newt's animals into objects, in order to sneak them into places. There are so many interesting and fun combinations of characters and abilities that you could do with this idea, and they would work really well to enhance and build upon the established canon. Also, I'm not sure if each of these books were written in the same time period, but if not, then there's always time turners. At the very least, they could give us a movie about the 4 people who founded Hogwarts, or even a Marauders TV show, which is something that could develop beyond what we saw in the movies. Fans have been asking for this for years now, so that is my first reason. It's not what most fans are looking for, and I for one want to see something new and well written within this world, but I think Warner Brothers just want to do something simple and safe, after the last new idea that they tried. Which brings me on to my second reason. If they're just going to continue to use the same ideas over and over again like a broken record, then it's going to cause stagnation within the brand. They should recognise the success of the original movies, but they need to build something new that improves that original story. Like the quick idea I proposed a moment ago. Don't get me wrong, they shouldn't try to replace the originals, but going in a new direction while building upon the originals, I think is the best way to go. Even though they were badly implemented, I think they were on the right track with the Fantastic Beasts movies. A prequel that builds up to the Philosopher's Stone could have worked really well if they had just committed to completing and improving the series despite the backlash. Take the Star Wars prequels for example. Those were probably among the most hated movies in history, and some people still hate them to this day. But despite the hate, they pushed through, and the third movie, Revenge of the Sith, is a fan favourite. Even though they were initially hated, the prequels have become one of the greatest parts of the Star Wars universe, because they stuck with it and reinforced the movies with TV shows, like Star Wars The Clone Wars, which gave more context to the main events in the movies. Imagine they'd stuck with the Fantastic Beasts movies. Imagine all the stories that could have been told. Imagine the characters we never got to meet. If the Star Wars prequels hadn't been finished, we would have never met Ahsoka Tano, who is one of the best characters in the entire Star Wars franchise. By cancelling the last Fantastic Beasts movies, they have put even more pressure onto future Wizarding World projects. If they had stuck with it, we could have had a spin-off exploring the American Ministry of Magic in depth, or a romantic comedy spin-off with Jacob and Queenie if they hadn't butchered her character, or even a project following the magical circus as they travel across the world, giving us more background on Nagini. There is so much potential there, but they wasted it by not sticking to their original plan, and allowing the public to dictate how the world progressed. I believe this is a larger problem across the industry. When studios start being influenced by what fans want, it usually damages the brand as a whole. Let me explain. The audience needs to believe that a story is written in stone and can't be changed. Otherwise it breaks our immersion when we realise that in reality the studio is just doing whatever the audience wants. When you start to follow trends and there is no grand plan behind your story, it can feel like fan fiction. Because it basically is. Going back to Star Wars for a second, when making the third movie in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, they should have stuck to what was established in The Last Jedi, rather than trying to change everything to please fans. That's how you get people to lose interest in your world, because it starts to feel hollow. My third reason why a Harry Potter reboot is a bad idea comes down to the fact that a lot of fans don't have HBO Max. I realise it's clearly their intention that people will subscribe purely for this TV show. I mean, that's the whole streaming business model. But this decision removes a large portion of their fan base, primarily older people, who prefer more traditional methods of watching TV, as well as kids who can't sign up for the service, and may not have access to it. I realise a majority of people who loved the original movies are young adults now, but let's not forget that that series is based on a children's book, so it should be more accessible to that demographic, assuming it is age appropriate. Another problem with streaming this TV show may come down to money. Most of the world is struggling with a cost of living crisis right now. I won't get into the politics, but the fact is that many families won't be able to afford signing up for yet another streaming service, on top of Netflix, Disney Plus and others. Having your new flagship series be so inaccessible for a lot of people may cause some unexpected problems as well. Event television relies on everyone watching and discussing the series between episodes, but the people who can't watch may start to feel resentment towards the show, or worse, they may not even know that it exists. I feel like this is disrespectful to fans. It should be more accessible, but this is a problem with streaming in general. Speaking of disrespect, rebooting such a beloved franchise is pretty disrespectful to the original actors, in particular those actors who are sadly no longer with us. Actors like Alan Rickman, Richard Griffiths and Robbie Coltrane. These people each devoted themselves to their roles, and it feels wrong to replace them like what they brought to their movies wasn't important. But I should also mention that this isn't the first time this has happened. Richard Harris, who played Dumbledore in the first movies, passed away and was replaced by Michael Gambon. Both of these actors brought a different interpretation of Dumbledore, and I think it worked really well despite the unfortunate circumstances. So I will say that if they could do it for Dumbledore, then maybe it won't be so bad to see a new interpretation of our other favourite characters from the series. Who knows, maybe the new actors will bring something new to the franchise, while embodying the characters from the books they are based on. But it does still make me feel uncomfortable that these incredible actors, incredible people, could be replaced so easily. So that is my fourth reason. It is disrespectful to the original actors. Before I get on to my fifth and final reason, I just want to play devil's advocate for a second, and discuss some of the reasons that it may actually be a good thing to create a Harry Potter TV show. I guess you could argue that the TV show is a new direction, because even though it's the same story, the fact that it is a TV show allows so much more time to see things that we never had time to see in the movies, like the Quidditch World Cup at the beginning of the fourth movie, and maybe even some more backstory for Snape, Lily, James and so on. With the massive success of the game Hogwarts Legacy, clearly fans are eager to return to new interpretations of this fascinating world. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it will also allow us to see new interpretations of our favourite characters. If you have any more ideas for why this series is a good idea, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. But now for my fifth reason. A Harry Potter TV show could cause the audience to become disconnected from the franchise and its characters. Allow me to explain with an example. Marvel did something similar recently when they tried to replace Iron Man with Ironheart. It's not exactly the same because they are different characters, but it causes the same alienation within the audience. The feeling that everyone is replaceable. Movies and TV shows are a product, and people like a product to feel like a one-of-a-kind work of art. But when you remove the thing they once loved and try to replace it with something new, that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. Another franchise that has this problem is Doctor Who. They have this issue a lot because they are constantly changing the main characters. From Donna and the 10th Doctor, to Amy and 11, to Clara and 12. It is a dynamic that has allowed the franchise to continue for decades, but it can cause people to lose interest in the product if this switchover is not handled with the utmost care. This is the problem that I can see the Wizarding World falling into with the Harry Potter TV show. At the end of the day, it will come down to implementation and the teams who are working on the project. Everything will need to be as close to perfect as possible if they want this series to do even half as well as the originals. But overall, the Harry Potter TV show is a bad idea. Firstly, because it's not what the fans want. Give us a Marauders TV show or let us see something new. Second, it causes stagnation within the brand when they only use one idea over and over and over again. It dilutes the franchise because a lot of people won't have access to HBO Max. It disrespects the previous actors. And lastly, it could cause audience disassociation, similar to what happens when Doctor Who goes through a regeneration. But overall, I'm excited to get back into this world and explore once again. I've played a bit of Hogwarts Legacy, and it reminded me of the joy that I used to feel for this world, before it was filled with controversy and bad writing. I just hope they do a better job with this than they did with the Fantastic Beasts movies, or Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.